Hey everybody, I'm Jim.
I'm Karen, and this is Liz Halvorsen from Mess to Bliss.
And we are about to your kitchen.
Excited to have Liz here and take us through her kitchen. Thanks for having us in your home, Liz.
You're welcome.
All right, Mess to Bliss. Tell us a little bit about how this all got started, your journey with this company.
So I have always loved organizing ever since I was a kid. My room was spotless, basically. And I was a school counselor, loved helping people. And I decided to transition into starting my own business, working with the community, helping local friends and family just get a hold of the chaos that was in their house. I could see it was causing them anxiety. I could see that they needed help. And I kind of had a light bulb moment where I was like, you know what, I think I can do this. And I think I can make it a business.
And how long have you been doing it?
I started this in 2018, so it's relatively new. But I've had a lot of support from friends and family. My mentor is my cousin who owns a wedding business, KDO. And she said, you know what, you have the personality and the talent to do it. So go ahead.
I love you mentioned chaos. And that's the important thing that we're going to tackle today with Liz is when your life feels chaotic, organization and sometimes planning out your day, planning out your meals, like Jim and I always tell you guys, can make life a lot easier, right? But we take it one day at a time, one thing at a time, right?
Small steps.
Small steps. All right. So first step I want to tackle with you, Liz, take us through your beautiful kitchen. And the first thing that I've noticed actually is the clean countertops. Not something that we have in our house, right, Jim? So how do you go about, it's hard to kind of narrow down what you need.
Right.
So how do you figure out like, okay, these are the things that I know I want access to?
Right. So a lot of times what I tell clients is to have baskets to contain things or bins so that they're not spread out all over the place. So for instance, I have for our daily fruits, vegetables, as you can see, I need to replenish. Kids can just grab a banana when they get home, or if we're using lemons or limes for a dinner, I have them for easy access so that it's not just kind of laid out all over the counter. The same thing with, if you look down the counter, we have our bread basket, so everything's contained. I often tell my clients, if you don't use the appliance, it shouldn't be out on your counter. But the blender that we use a lot for smoothies and such, the kids usually have them when we get home from school. So that stays out. It's also very heavy, so we leave it out here. Same thing with our toaster oven, which I love. My son makes a bagel every morning, so it's something that's easy to use and grab and go.
And this is too very important, obviously, for the nutritional aspect of things, right? Liz said, so you want to have the fruit handy, accessible, right? Jim and I have told you guys in the past, we like to put out a plate instead of a plate of cookies, Liz. What we do is like, I'll chop up whatever carrots or peppers Gia does for like school.
Yeah.
That leftovers will go on a plate and right on the countertop so that when Jim comes through the kitchen, he's snacking on that rather than reaching in the cupboard, right?
Correct.
I notice you also have something very important here, and I'm going to call you out.
Yep.
Mama's favorite.
Love Albany Distillery. Love it.
But no, I think the important message here, guys, and like you just said, right, is to have the appliances that are most important. Now, how do you whittle that down? Because it's hard for me to let go of what I think is important, right? I think everything's important, so I'm just like, let's let it all hang out there.
Right, and I think it just takes, if you live in your house for a week and you realize, like, I know a lot of people in the corner of, and our kitchen is not large, but they have the KitchenAid mixer, the stand mixer in the corner of their kitchen. But I'll ask them like, oh, do you bake often? No, I got that for a wedding gift in 2013 and there it lives. So I'll often give suggestions like, maybe we could just put it under a cabinet or in the basement. So when you need it at holiday time, then it comes out. But it doesn't need to be displayed as a work of art. This is my kitchen is a functional kitchen and most people just use it for prepping and then cleaning up. So to take like and I'm not perfect, like we have our junk basket over here. So this is a cake that my son is working on right now. It's in the fridge to be finished. This is our like basket of junk. So things like our hand sanitizer, our tape, my daughter's wallet, like these are things that I didn't want to have out on the counter for all those display. So just a quick little basket from Marshall's, you know, just to contain things. And then we will go through it every now and again, like to see what we need to keep and what we need to toss. And our family has a lot of devices, so this is our charging station. And you know, just kind of keep it as minimal as possible for a family of 5.
So I'm hearing basically whittling things down, looking at what you use constantly and consistently, and then just, it's okay to have that kind of a basket, like a catch-all, right? Where you're constantly then also going back and checking to make sure it doesn't get out of control.
100%.
So we're good with countertops. Shall we move on to the next spot?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
All right, so we are at the pantry, and some people might say this is where all the magic happens. So let's take a look inside, and you can take us through it.
Great.
I'm seeing a ton of organization compared to what we have at our house. So let's start at the bottom shelf here. Seemingly snacks for kids.
Yes. So we have 3 teenagers, and so our kids, when they come home or when they pack their lunch, I like to decant some of the applesauces out of the container, and I put them in these little baskets, which you guys can pick up from like the Dollar Tree. It's nothing super fancy. The same thing with use what you have. So this is the container that the oranges came in, and so I just take the top off so that they can see it, grab it, and go. Same thing with granola bars. So they grab a granola bar, it's already in this box, it's already contained, it's easy to access. There's other loose things that I use for, this is a little, again, picked it up at Marshall's, little under cabinet storage for kids to grab like their chips and their, you know, cookies every once in a while for their lunch snacks.
Yeah, it's super practical. You know, you have everything in one spot.
Mm-hmm.
I know for us, I'm gathering some good intel here because we have the snacks on the bottom cabinet on one side of the kitchen,
Sure.
and then all the canned goods on a top shelf on the total opposite side of the kitchen.
Right.
Is there any thought process behind that, and for you at least, keeping it all in one spot, or is this just really the only spot you have, so this is where everything goes?
Right. So for me, I knew when we had this house, I knew that I wanted to have the pantry contain all the food items. So in our kitchen, this is the only, well, I shouldn't say that. We do have a Lazy Susan, which I can show you, but that has all of like the canned goods and the sauces and the oils. So I often tell my clients, just keep like things with the like. So if you're a big pasta and sauce person, keep those together. If you're a big baker, you know, keep the cake mix, the frosting, and the sprinkles contained together. Because then it's easier for you to remember what you have when you go to the grocery store. Oftentimes I have people that, you know, buy crackers and then they forget that they had crackers because they have crackers in this cabinet, they have crackers up here, they have crackers down here. So I will often, when I do an organizing session, I'll have everyone take out all the food and then we categorize it and then we figure out how to put it back in the easiest way possible.
Yeah, our crackers are not with the snacks on the other opposite side of the kitchen.
Okay.
The other thing that sticks out to me here is all of the sauces and oils. A lot of this stuff for us is in the fridge, but for you, it's out on the shelf.
Yes. So and this is actually a good thing for people to know, is that sometimes there's things that are shelf stable, so you can keep them on here. And I knew like there's 2 soy sauces only because I know that this one is almost out. So I don't overbuy. I don't tend to do a lot of back stock like a lot of people do. I just buy kind of what we need. But like my kids love buffalo wing sauce, so I have 2 of those. We do love doing stir fries, so we have 2 of these. But I use these tiered shelving so that it's easy for me to see what we have and what we're working with, so stuff doesn't get lost kind of in the back. And I also make the mistake of sometimes forgetting to purge things every now and again. Like if I needed this cooking line for a recipe, it was best used by April of 2021. So that is something that I should probably purge myself. But I forget. I'm human.
I really love the storage that you've got going on here. Super simple, from the dollar store, little baskets.
Yep,
the basket of chips down there. I mean, this isn't fancy stuff. It's pretty straightforward,
Right.
pretty basic, super
Very
simple.
practical. I love doing a lazy Susan. I always recommend these for people when they have kind of hard to reach corners, or a little tea thing. My husband and my daughter are big tea drinkers, so we have a little tea corner cabinet storage thing there. So anything where you can kind of contain smaller things, because something like this is small and it can fall through. So if you're able to contain it in an organized way, it's, you know, it makes everyone's life a little easier.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say this is a pantry that's in tip-top shape that we need to start to mirror, Karen.
Okay, Jim. We'll do that with Liz's help. Okay, so I have a love-hate relationship with all of these things, and I had to bring them over to Liz's house because I felt like I needed to get advice on how to organize all of the Tupperware. We're big meal preppers,
Sure.
right? We like to prep our food. We do it once a week, maybe on Sundays. Lately, it's been different days of the week, but we have a ton of Tupperware, and we have a ton of snack containers, and we have a ton of things, and I just wanted to like bring them to Liz's house and be like, hey, help me, what do I do? So Liz, what's the best way, and obviously we can go over what each of these things are and where I got them from, but what's the best way to like organize your Tupperware?
Right, so the big thing is to make sure, I like to buy complete sets of things. So if you're gonna commit to Tupperware, keep the same brand or style. Like if you like the glass, if you like the Pyrex, keep it all the same, because then you know the tops aren't gonna be confusing. You know, if you get Rubbermaid something, Ziploc something else, you know, Tupperware brand something else, it just kind of gets lost in translation. So for you, maybe have all the kids stuff be the same brand. Like I love the Sistema. Like these are, I use these for my kids for school. You can put the snack in. It doesn't, you know, labeled. You won't lose it. It's secured.
And you know that this top goes with any of the containers.
Correct. Mix and
That's
match,
really
which
smart.
is great. As opposed to, you know, maybe buying different brands or
Yeah.
getting something from a neighbor. You know, that is often a great way to, you know, same thing. Like I take everything out. Like I have my own.
Show us your drawer.
So this is a beautiful, you guys. So we have a mix, like I said, of Pyrex and Tupperware. So every once in a while, I would say once every couple months, I go through everything. Did we lose a top? Did something crack in the freezer?
Yeah.
And then we'll pare it down and figure out what works. Some stuff works great. Some stuff doesn't work so great for our family's needs. And then we, you know, kind of let it go.
I like the idea. See, I never thought of having the same brands for the purposes of tops. But like you said, like you want to have maybe some things in glass that you put in the fridge.
Correct.
Maybe some things obviously PVA free. But having the space, right? Like I
Yeah.
like that we don't have a drawer necessarily for our Tupperware
Yep.
at the moment, which is why I think the Dollar Tree is
Yep.
a fantastic
Basket.
tool, right? So I got these all from the Dollar Store, and when I was talking with Liz before coming over, I was like, do you get things from the Dollar Tree too?
Absolutely. Yep. It's
So-
the best place.
Yeah, so like using something like this for us, because we put our Tupperware in the actual cabinet, because we don't have one of these kind of cool nifty drawers, but stacking things up in here, right? This would be like a good alternative,
Absolutely.
right?
Yep. And then you
Something
can
like-
stack like this,
Yeah.
you know, kind of do a Tetris thing
Yeah.
to get it all to fit in. But if it's all the same brand style, then it should fit in pretty nicely. And then it's grab and go. You can put it
Right.
in the cabinet, take it out when you need it.
Right.
Easy
And
peasy.
here's something, I brought this specifically because I wanted to kind of show you guys, you don't have to spend a lot of money to do this kind of stuff. I was telling Liz, these OXO, these I bought for Gia for her hair clips. She's got a million different types of hair accessories. These were 2 for $10, 2 of these containers. I got this from the Dollar Store for $1, and it serves the same purpose.
Exactly.
Can you show us your messy drawer?
Yes, everyone has a junk drawer. That I know it's inevitable. So our junk
take a look
drawer
over there.
is right over by our sink. And I did the same thing. I used containers. They're small.
love
They
this.
can actually connect if you want them to. And again, is it beautiful? No. Is it still messy? Yes. But at least I know pens are here. Miscellaneous is here. Paper clips. My son's locker.
It's organized though, is the
Right.
point, right?
It's organized enough where it's not just one mess of drawer.
Right,
Like that's
right.
90% of the problem with
Yeah.
people.
So, and the thing with the containers is, is there like a fast rule for these things? Do you just like measure out your drawer? Do you just buy a bunch? How
I
you
do.
that?
I mean, I will measure ahead of time, but a lot of times small things like this will fit any which way. I mean,
Right.
I know there's a lot of home organizers that spend a lot of money like measuring and making it fit perfectly, but I kind of work at my client's level. So if you're happy with just a few, storage containers to make it work, great. If you want to go all out and have it be precisely fitting in here, I can do that as well.
Right. Cool. So the name of the game is, doesn't have to be expensive in order for it to work, right?
Correct.
And you can use different things like baskets, different things like the Tupperware thing is like the biggest thing, I feel like, for a lot of families.
It is.
It just gets scattered everywhere and you lose pieces.
And pieces break and they get lost in the dishwasher. So just kind of purging every once in a while, especially after the holidays when you get a lot of stuff from family members or give it away. It's a good time to do it. It's like spring cleaning.
It's the purge.
Okay, so tons of great information, tons of great tips so far. The next big question, the biggest question of all, how do we implement this? How do we put it into practice?
So a lot of the things that you can do are like, I know some people have a hard time letting go of certain things. Like for instance, I'll show you in our cabinets, we have a lot of people usually have a lot of mugs. So we often will do a mug purge every once in a while. Sometimes we get new mugs. It's out with the old, in with the new. There's always a lot of places you can donate mugs, different household dishes, Tupperware, utensils, all of that. The other thing that I try to do in our own family's household is that we get a lot of sentimental things from our family. I know my grandmother-in-law, she gifted to us her engagement china before she passed away. So as opposed to just leaving it in containers in our basement, we actually use the china every day. So
It's so pretty.
thank you. It's part of a memory of her, so it reminds us of her, and it's practical. Like, even though it's fancy china, when my husband and I were married, we didn't register for dishes because it wasn't something I felt like we needed, and so we ended up getting her dishes, so it's a nice memory of her. And even a small thing like, I don't have a lot of my grandmother's stuff, my maternal grandmother, but this is a dish that reminds me of her. It's from the Depression, it's Depression glass. But I remember as a kid going over and eating ice cream at her house. So this dish is one memory I have of her as opposed to a ton of things.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic point, right? You need one, maybe two items to kind of keep that happy thought, that memory alive.
Correct.
And keep that sentimental value without having 12, 15, 20 of them taking up this entire cabinet or stashed collecting dust in the basement.
Exactly.
One other thing that you showed us was how to organize all of your kids' artwork and photos over the years, which I think is a super smart idea. So show us what you've done here with this sort of photo album.
Right. So for families with kids, oftentimes the elementary school, you get a lot of things home, starting in the preschool. So this is an example of something that I made for my daughter when she, at the end of second grade. So it's a photo book. It's very thin. It does not take up a lot of space on our shelf. But what I did throughout the school year was I took a picture of most of her art that she produced in second grade. So as you can see, there was a lot of activities she did. Then at the end of the year, I compiled all of the photos. I made an album in iPhoto that just said Thora second grade. I dumped all the photos in there. Then at the end of the year, and oftentimes these photo sites, Snapfish or Shutterfly, have tons of discounts, like a free photo book or 70% off. So that's when I compile all of these photos into one book so that you're not overwhelmed with the volume of paper that accumulates from year to year.
Right.
And we have 3 kids, so there's no way I would have been able to hang on to 3 kids' artwork.
Bins and bins of artwork.
Correct.
I imagine the first time you probably did this, maybe a little bit tedious, a little bit time consuming, but over the years, I imagine it got a lot easier as you were more proactive about it, right?
Yes, it did. And to be honest, I tell parents, like, my kids are now in 10th grade, 8th grade, and my daughter's in 5th. And once they hit middle school and high school, there's not a lot of art coming home. So it goes by very quickly. So the preschool up to probably grade 5 is when you're going to get the volume of this. And if this is too tedious for you, I know that there's websites. One in particular is called Archive, Archive, KidKive, I'll look it up. But you can actually just send all the paper. They give you a box and you ship it, and they make this for you.
That's cool.
So there's multiple ways to go about doing it, but having it sit in a bin in your attic until your kids are 30 is not acceptable.
I love this too, you know, not only if you have kids, but I have so many poems and love letters from my darling husband.
I think I sent those all email, so they should already be fairly well collated.
But all those things can go into something like this rather than a storage box.
That's a great Valentine's Day gift. With Valentine's Day right around the corner, you could totally like consolidate and put those on. And a lot of these sites now make it so easy to just upload. They will often do the photo organizing for you. They'll suggest different layouts, and then you can just hit buy now.
Okay.
So one of the big themes I'm sensing here is take a proactive approach. Start small. So we've covered a lot of ground here. We've covered the countertops, where to place the appliances and fruits, vegetables. We went through the pantry. We've gone through the cabinet. If somebody has got disorganization almost in every corner of the kitchen,
Right.
what's your best piece of advice or two on where to start and how to progress from there?
I often suggest to set a timer, literally, on your microwave, on your watch, 10 minutes, and start small. The junk drawer is normally the easiest place to start. So set your 10-minute timer, open the junk drawer, take everything out, load it on the counter, and start sorting. Throw away broken pencils, pens that have run out of ink, a tape dispenser that has no more tape in it, and then build it back in. And then just go around the room. I often think of a room like a clock. So if you're going to start at 12 o'clock, go right around the room until you get back to 12 again. And it does take some time, but that's why if organization isn't a love like it is for me, I do tell them to just set a timer, start small, and then reward yourself with a small victory, like a glass of wine.
We support that message. So what's a realistic time frame for somebody? I know all circumstances are different.
Sure.
Just ballpark it, to get your cabinets in order, like a Tupperware drawer, for example. 10 minutes a day, 10 minutes a week.
I would say a Tupperware drawer or Tupperware cabinet would probably take no more than an hour of time, but sometimes that's very tedious for people to do an hour of Tupperware sorting and matching. I often say just put on some music, listen to a podcast, and the hour tends to go by very quickly. For me as an organizer, I know like a full-scale kitchen to do every cabinet, a pantry, every drawer does take probably 4 to 5 hours consecutively. And when I'm working with a client, I'm working for that chunk of time because I want them to feel like we've accomplished something after those, few hours. But if you're just doing it solo, I would suggest, working on one drawer at a time. Your food, just focus on one particular subject, like work on all the food, work on your spices, and then go from there.
I think the Tupperware drawer is a good example. Thinking of what ours looks like currently. You can devote an hour to it and get it looking neat and how you want it. What do you suggest people then do to maintain that organization and that cleanliness of that specific drawer, cabinet, pantry?
Right. So a lot of it is about maintaining. And so the thing with the Tupperware drawer, like you could see myself, like our drawer isn't perfectly neat. So I would say, look at after a week and see, is it still where you want it to be? Like, are the tops still matching the bottoms, or did a lid crack in the dishwasher? So now you have to tell yourself, all right, we got to toss that, as opposed to just saying, I'll get to it later. So that really doing the maintenance takes a little more effort on the client's end. But usually by the time I've reset them, they do feel motivated to continue on with the process, and they'll put in the time and energy.
Awesome. Yeah, certainly drawing a lot of parallels to weight loss. Take a proactive approach, reevaluate every week or so, and then decide what your goal is from there and which direction you need to head.
All right, so there you go. How to your kitchen with Liz Halvorsen. Liz giggles every time that beep goes up. I love it. So Liz, thank you so much for, again, inviting us into your home, sharing your tips and tricks. I think the best thing that Jim and I, can walk away from this with, and everybody watching that can walk away from this, is it is possible, right? We know the home edit, we know the Marie Kondo, you know, like all those women make it seem just like so overwhelming because it just looks so immaculate.
Right.
But I think, you know, and from what you've taught us here today, it's okay to be messy. It's okay to have things not perfect,
right,
as long as they're organized, right?
Yes. Give yourself some credit where credit is due. A lot of people are working full-time jobs. We're living in a pandemic. You know, do what makes you feel good. So if it's just organizing one little drawer or your coat closet or your shoes, you know, I'm happy to meet you where you're at. Like, that's kind of my goal, is to be the cheerleader that you need the support from.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's what we talk about with ourselves.
Yeah,
too.
there's a lot of, like I said, there's a ton of parallels between this and weight loss. One goal per week, one healthy activity per week.
One drawer per week.
One drawer per week, one closet per week. So where can people find you? Your social media pages, website, all that.
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. It's at Mess to Bliss, and you can check out my website at messtobliss.com for more information.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was great. Welcome to our Sense Fitness Masterclass on how to unbleep your kitchen. All right, I guess you'd want to unbleep it and not.
You don't want to bleep it. We're joined by Liz Halvorsen from Mess to Bliss. By now, if you've already watched the video with Liz and with us in her beautiful kitchen, you know that Liz is an organizational expert, taking your mess to bliss. Liz, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I have my organizing shirt on for you guys that I wear to clients' houses. Yep. Totally fun. Love it.
I love that.
Did you have that made yourself, or is that like a community thing?
It's an Etsy purchase. The woman that did when I first started, she did like my logo and screen printed. So I've been using her, but you know, I'm sure my son, my 13-year-old, my middle child could have creatively done it himself too. So, but yeah, I like to support small business.
It's awesome. For people who didn't get a chance to watch the video and they're going to actually be watching this Q&A, why don't we do a quick intro and give us kind of like a brief, you know, give us your life story, how you ended up becoming interested in organizing and doing that for other people.
Sure. So I've always had a love of organization. And the journey kind of led me in a crazy path. I went to college. I got my degree in biology. I got my teaching degree. I was a high school bio teacher for years. I went back to school, got my counseling degree. So I was a school counselor for years. And then my dad got sick, and there was stuff I wasn't really happy in my job. You know, everyone talks about self-care and all this stuff. And I wasn't, although I loved what I did, I loved supporting the kids and the family and the community, I just wasn't happy personally. And so I started pursuing, just looking at other options. And this trend of the home edit and Marie Kondo kind of came to a light. And I don't know if anyone watches the A&E show Hoarders. You know, I kind of looked at that and I was like, you know, I've always had different systems that I've enjoyed doing and putting in place. And I am a mother of 3 children. And so we've lived in small houses. We've lived in, you know, 800 square feet up to now 2,700. So we always had stuff neatly organized in a row. And I said, you know what, I think this is the time to try doing organization as a career and a business. And so, I met with a couple of local people. There was another woman who had an organizing business already established in the community, and she was a great resource for me. And that's kind of how it developed. And so now, I've been in business since 2018, and I probably have had over 65 clients, which are great because some people need me for like one thing and then I leave and I might not see them again. And then there's other clients that I meet with religiously once a week for, a 3-hour stint. And I probably will be doing that for a few more years. So it's been wonderful.
Well, congrats to you on your continued success. Owning a business is not an easy thing to do. But I think you hit it on the head. I think it's not just like, a trend that's here and gone. I think what's happened with these organizational, type, like the shows on Netflix that you referenced and what you and so many other people are doing, it's something that people find use out of, and it's here to stay, right? It's not something that can just go away. I'm curious though, so the organizational, like the overhaul, the initial part, how much of that is then maintenance, right? Because you can't just do it and then, if I'm naturally a messy, unorganized person, I'm just going to go back to the way it was, like, a week later or less.
Right. So the key, oftentimes the key with working with a client is establishing systems. So, for instance, for like a kitchen cabinet, or if you have a actual pantry, like sometimes the people just throw like their canned goods in, their spices in, and there's no order or semblance to it. So I will come in and literally unpack like that entire kitchen cabinet or that entire pantry and then rebuild it. And we might rebuild it with like a product, like a tiered shelving system, or even sometimes I just flip like baskets upside down. Like you don't need to buy brand new sparkly things if you don't need to. So there's things like that where I'm like, okay, now your cans are stacked. So you can see like the top cans are tomato soup, the other cans are chicken broth, the lower cans are, whatever, Chef Boyardee, whatever. So, they can actually see it now and it makes more sense to them. I feel like people are very good. When I meet with clients, they're like, I just need you to help me reset it. And then and honestly, it's probably 8 times out of 10 that because I will come back and do a different room, but then I will check in and say, oh, how's that? Can I peek in that kitchen cabinet or can I peek in that linen closet? And most of the time they're like, it's fine. Don't look. But I will come back and say, okay, let's just like, they might forget how I like folded the towel or, but at least they get the general idea, and they do really want to work towards it. Like that's the thing. Once you've like hired me and you're paying for me to come and work with you, you're at the point in your house where you're like, I need help. Like I'm not, and I will stand there and work with you. And so they know like, I value your time, you're valuing my time because you're paying me to be there. So we do kind of work as a team, getting rid of things like tossing canned goods from 2013. I mean, I had a spice jar from 2001 once. I had spice jars actually from this woman's house. It was lovely in Albany. It was like an old fashioned like spice counter and built into her, or spice cabinet into her kitchen. And the spices were so old that she didn't use them. They were like her mom's spices. She inherited the house. So we tossed them all. And then come to find out that there's actual like props companies in New York City and in California that would buy those. And I was like, so that was an early on career move where I'm like, life lesson. Like I should really like, screenshot these and send them out to see if anyone wants to pay good money for these things. So
that's pretty cool.
I know.
So I got a question actually, and I don't know, Jim, if we want to get straight into the questions, but kind of related to, the organizational, and it had to do, we talked about this in the video with your grandmother's dish,
Yes.
the emotional attachment. And I just want to pull up the question. So it says, I do my best, and the person wanted to remain nameless, so I'll leave it at that. But
Totally
I do my
fine.
best to keep everything organized and in its place. However, I am very emotionally attached to a lot of things. I try to minimize and I try to donate, but at the end of the day, I just can't seem to get rid of enough. So what's the advice as far as, you're attached to so many things and you're trying to downsize, but at the end of the day, like, it's just not working out for this person. So what would you say, where to start?
So
Sorry.
no, you're fine. Oh my gosh, Karen. It's a good question. I often, so that's like a layer. It's almost like where my counseling background kind of comes into play is like, what is holding you back, or what is the volume of things? Like, what are the memories that you really want to hold on to? And when I tell my clients, like, the memory is the thing, it's not a tangible thing. Like, the memory isn't like, this glow. It's like, you remember making this with your mom when you went to, do the glass blowing class, but you don't need the thing. If you have like 100 of these and you now need to downsize because you're moving to a smaller place, or you're moving in with your, daughter because you can't live on your own anymore, what have you, you don't need the tangible thing anymore. Like, you just want to hold on to the memory that was something that you did with your mom 20 years ago. So, like I told you in the video, I said, especially for kids artwork, like, I take pictures of all the stuff and then I save it onto the cloud, or I make it into a photo book. So you don't need to save every little physical thing that has a memory for you, because the memory isn't here. It's not in here. So that's really what I try to tell clients. And if you just have like, a plate or a set of dishes that remind you of your grandmother, you don't need to save the entire service of 12. Like, you could just save one of the little dessert plates, or, the teacup, like one cup and saucer, so that when you have tea or coffee in the morning and you're having it out of that, teacup, it reminds you of your grandma. But if you are, if you're a single woman, or you only have like you and your husband, you don't need a service of 12 of china.
I've
So
seen
that's what I say. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I've seen actually, and I don't know if this was at Jim's grandmother's house, but, sentimental items where they'll take, I think it might have been his aunt. Either way, they'll take these sentimental items, like a really, really old bathing suit from like the 18 something hundreds. And they put it in a picture frame. It's not that old. Maybe early 1900s, but they'll put it in a picture frame, like, take it to Michael's or take it to one of those places that professionally frames it in a shadow box type situation. And you could do that at home. Same with the dishes, with the china, like,
Right.
will be like, plastered down, and then it's the whole service in a picture frame, and that's hanging on the wall, which I think is cool.
Yeah, that's a good, that reminds me, I did this work with a client. She ran her own PR firm. She was a phenomenal lady, but she had volumes of like letterhead and envelopes and business cards. And this PR firm was probably, 15, 20 years retired. Like, she had not run this firm in years. And so as I was going through helping her, because she was downsizing to a smaller place to live, I took like one sheet of letterhead, one envelope, one business card, one leaflet, and I did the same thing. I went to Michael's, I bought the press board, and I made her this cute little 11 by 17 photo of like the collage of her business, so that it wasn't just all getting recycled, but there was a piece where she like could hang it on the wall and be like, I did that, like, I owned this business, back in the day, and it, it just brought her joy. So that's really what you look at. You don't look at the volume of things, and you look at the one little memory that you have.
That kind of, hi. That kind of reminds me too of what people do with their wedding invitations, right? Like the wedding, the invitation, the place card, whatever.
It's beautiful. It's the same thing with funeral. Like, the people have a lot of like funeral cards too. I realized when I go through like older people's homes, they have like either their, spouse passed away, but they have so many cards left over.
Yeah.
So I'll just say, just take one as a memory, and then they actually will hold on to the envelopes for like using for like check writing or whatever. But I'm like, you don't need, if you ordered 500 and you only gave away 200, you don't need to hold on to 300. There's no reason to hang on to 300, funeral cards at this point in your life.
Yeah. I had another question about the drop zone. We talked about the basket that you have in the kitchen, where you basically, it's things that come in and out. You drop it in there, you go every couple of, whatever it is, weeks, and clear it out, whatever paperwork, envelopes. But this had to do with the drop zone being this person's kitchen island. And not just like a basket, which I can kind of relate, and I can kind of foresee when we do have our own kitchen. I'm very nervous about the drop, like that kitchen island just being, the spot where the kids put their backpack, the, the dinner, the the dish rack, like, you know, you're gonna have a nice farmhouse kitchen sink, like the dish rack is gonna be on the island, and I'm starting to panic. But anyway, this person wants to know about how do you keep on top of your drop zone, and what are some tips to keep it clear, you know, in general, just
Right. So, I mean, that the thing is that it has to be consistent, and it really depends on the person. So for me, I mean, because I do have that basket of clutter. Like I keep old, checks. Like when we got the kid like reimbursement money, like when I was like getting that from the government, I'm like, all right, I'm just going to keep this check, and we'd get like receipts that I would just throw into there. But you have to be good about setting. If it's huge, like if it takes up an entire counter, you have to be good about saying, okay, I'm going to set 10 minutes. I'm just going to go through this and, clear out what's clutter or mail. There's a lot of paper clutter, and that's a huge thing for people where I try, especially in 2022, I'm like, if you can get anything digital, you do not need a paper copy at this point. Like, and I just feel like people they do get anxiety about the paper. Like they feel like I can't throw that bank statement away, even though the bank statement is existing on the cloud somewhere on like Citizens Bank or SEFCU or Capcom. Like everyone has it everywhere digitally, but for some reason that it is a hard thing. The paper clutter is honestly my nemesis with clients, because the volume is so much, and they get a little hesitant about throwing things away, or what to throw away versus what to shred, even though honestly all of your local credit unions have a shredding bin that you can, if you're a member of like Capcom or SEFCU, you can just bring it and just throw it in the bin for free. Staples will do it. It's $1 a pound. But sometimes it's worth it. Like I've taken it on clients' behalfs, and I bring it in a box, and they're pretty nice about it. Staples is like, all right, the box is 2 pounds here. It's like $18, but that $18 is well worth it to get, 18 pounds of paper out of your life. So yeah, it's maintaining, and it's the diligence. Like it has to be, I used to tell this to my kids when I was a school counselor and they were like failing math or failing English. I would tell them like, I can't want it more than you. So as much as I want your counter to be organized, if you're not going to put in the effort and really do the work for it, it's going to stay that way. Like I can certainly come in and clean it and give you the systems, but it's that maintain that is key. And like I've told my clients, and I've told students in the past, that for something to become a habit, you have to do it 21 times consistently. Studies have shown. So 21 times of like, yep, I need to clear it off and put it in a basket. Yep, I got to put this oregano back on the spice rack 21 times. And then finally your brain says, okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah. And that's actually one of the parallels that we discussed when we were at your house, between, the nutrition coaching and the organizational is it's not going to become a habit just overnight, right? It does take practice. And the paper thing, I remember thinking back to myself, the way that I decided to change the paper trail of like, where's our birth certificate? Where is this? Where's our marriage certificate? Was I gotten so fed up with like searching for these items that I was just like, I need to put this in the filing cabinet that's empty. It's sitting there empty. It's got a bunch of folders in it, but all of my like important documents are strewn about. So that's what
right. And what some clients like is, besides those really heavy like fireproof boxes, they actually make, which I think the bank uses, they make like fireproof bags, like zip. I don't have a fireproof one, but they kind of look like this. So they're fireproof, but they're little like envelopes, and they're really handy for people like that. Like that's all you need to save. You need a marriage license or a birth certificate or your social security card or your passport, just in something where it's like, okay, important documents, and then they're good. And right, if you don't have like one of those 2-drawer, metal filing cabinets, you can buy like a little tote, like a filing tote. And a lot of people don't need a lot of like paper nowadays. They need, the tax information that's now being distributed to their home. So you need a manila envelope, maybe to put all your tax information in for that time until you go to your accountant or TurboTax. But really everything else is really digital nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. It's hard to let go. It's another attachment, right? It's easy to get into the habit of, I need to keep this piece of paper. Jim, did you get that question pulled up for me?
Yeah.
All right. We had another question from one of our clients. I have Jim pulled up.
So I'll ask a question first, which I think will lead nicely into this question from our client. One thing that we didn't touch on in the video was how to organize the refrigerator. Is it a similar style to how you have the pantry set up? Keep similar items grouped together, much the same way you recommend doing that in the refrigerator as well?
Yes, yes, Jim. Depending on your type of fridge, like we have a side by side, some people have the French drawer with the pull out freezer, and I kind of work with everyone's style. It really is about keeping like with the like. So on the door, we have a whole row of condiments. So we have the ketchup, the mustard, the barbecue sauces, whatever. And then the next row is all the salad dressings, because like I mentioned to you guys before, is that you will have an Italian dressing, but then you won't find it because it's over here. And then you're like, oh wait, do I have an Italian dressing? And then you buy one because you forgot you had one, or you buy two because you forgot you had a back stock in the pantry. So now you have 3 Italian dressings. And, and we live, I mean, a lot of people don't live super rural. Like we have access to so many things so quickly nowadays, even with Amazon Prime being not really 2 days anymore. It's more like 3 to 4, but still, like, we can get something very quickly, even in this global pandemic. So I like to keep things categorized together. So I make like a whole tray or a whole shelf in my fridge for like leftovers. So then the kids know, oh, this is the leftover shelf. The next shelf has like the eggs and, the everyday things that might not fit on the door. Some people use the baskets, which is great to categorize. Like if you have your applesauces or if you have your yogurts, you want to have them in a basket, that's fine. I just normally just keep them stacked behind each other. I just bought, actually, because I was so sick of my freezer. We have like a narrow, double-sided or one-side freezer. So you'll see it probably this week on my Instagram page at Mess to Bliss, where I did buy slim like freezer containers. They're in my kitchen, but to just stack like the things in. So I'm going to keep like all the chicken, like the chicken nuggets, the grilled chicken, like in one bin. The next bin will have all the frozen veggies, because our freezer is not very conducive for me. So I don't often buy the organizing product because I just repurpose things in my house. But this time I like bit the bullet. I'm like, I'm going to do it. So it'll be a before and after probably in the next week or so.
So with having your pantry organized, your fridge organized, how often, this is the question from our client, how often do you recommend kind of giving it a glance, going through it deeply, even to kind of get a sense of what's in there, what's expired, what should I hold on to, what should I throw out? How often do you recommend doing that?
So for more of like the fresh stuff, I would do like once a week. Like if you're using your produce drawer and your fruit drawer like weekly, especially with kids and stuff, like I'll buy, which drives me bananas. Like I'll buy a thing of like raspberries at Price Chopper. And, a couple of my kids buy the school lunch, some of them bring their lunch, whatever. But then like it's Friday and I'm like, oh my gosh, these raspberries are moldy. Like it just, I'm like, there was like $4 down the drain. So I would do it as frequently as you're grocery shopping for the fresh stuff. More like more of the other essentials, like the salad dressings and things. I mean, just kind of be aware that they will expire, especially if you use, a marinade for something from when you were grilling back in July, and that marinade is still hanging out in your fridge and now it's January 26th. You may want to just check the date and be like, well, am I using it or not? Because again, I don't like to say that everything's expendable nowadays, but you could buy another $2 marinade at Price Chopper for your next, grilling event, which I don't know, for me, it's not happening anytime soon, but that's what I would suggest.
Liz, you need to be putting those berries in the freezer before they grow the mold. Come on.
I know, it's true, because I did start to do that with the strawberries, because we would buy the big thing at BJ's of strawberries, but then my kids they were using them in the blender, but then not using them fresh enough. So I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to freeze them. Yeah. And I also started to do that with our brown bananas. I was like, I'm going to cut the slices, and that was a game changer. But there are a few things that get away from me. Like, we still have apples from when we went apple picking at Indian Ladder. And I'm like, these could not be good anymore. So there is some stuff that I have to Google, like especially with women with makeup, I do tend to have like a little cheat sheet that for my own benefit, I'm like, how long does eyeshadow stay? Because that is expensive. And then you're like, I don't want to throw out like my MAC foundation that I spent $40 on, but you also bought it in 2012. So,
And then you're
that's
putting
the
it on
tough
your
thing.
face and you're breaking out wondering why. Hello. Been there,
Exactly.
done that.
Yes. Yes. It's true. 100%.
The only thing that I'll add for Reed on that question is, I know for me, like, you know what you use consistently, right? You
Right.
can have a million salad dressings, a million, jars of marmalade or whatever. But if you're not reaching for that tiki masala jar and you haven't had Indian in like over a month, maybe you should check, open it up, smell it, see if it's got something funny growing in there. But yeah, I agree. Like, we keep all of our produce, the fresh produce, in one drawer, and then we've got in this fridge the kids' yogurt in the other drawer. So it's very easy to stay on top of. We don't have like lettuce on one shelf and then fruit on another shelf, and
Right.
it's all kind of contained to one area, like you were saying, so that it's easy to kind of go through and say, all right, let me just double check and make sure nothing.
Right. Because exactly. Most fridges are designed to be somewhat organized. Like they'll have a deli drawer for like the cheeses and the meats, and then they'll have a crisper, and then they'll have a fruit drawer. It's actually fun. I saw a meme the other day that instead of saying vegetable crisper, they had like whited out crisper and put hospice, which I was like, oh, it's true. I think they shop at Whole Foods. I'm like, because it just, you forget about it. You have all the best intentions to use it, and then you're like, oh, it's too far gone at this point. I thought that was cute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those are all the questions that we received.
Oh, good.
More from people
Yeah.
once they watch this too as well. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? The only other thing that I'm sorry, I feel like I just asked you, is there anything you want to add? But I just thought of something else. The only other thing that for people with kids that I thought was really useful, and I don't think we ended up including it in the video, is talking about getting things eye level for children.
Right.
And how useful and helpful I think that is, because I mean, organizationally, like, we just think, let me just put everything in these top cabinets. But I know for the little kids, it's just like, leave me alone, go get your own plate, set your own table.
Right. You're right. And that's a big thing, is that like, I think just because I did it with my kids so young, is that we had our kitchen when we lived in like a suburb of Boston, and our kitchen was not very big. And so, but the bottom drawer, we had a 3-drawer cabinet, and the bottom drawer, that is where I put all the sippy cups, all the plastic plates, all the plastic utensils, so that, it's nice to have your kids be accountable. Like I told you, like your kids are at the age where they like want to help, or now I'm like dragging my kids up from like the basement or their bedrooms to like help set the table. And so, but for them, for Leo to be like, oh, come get your plate for dinner. Like he can open the drawer, get his plate, get his cup, set the table. I mean, it's so nice to have your kids kind of be accountable. And it's the same thing after you put it in the dishwasher and the dishes are clean. You can have your kids do like the kid, section. Like I'm not telling them, don't have them put away your like crate and barrel plates, but have them put away like their plastic sippy cups and their utensils. Cause then, they get this sense of accountability and responsibility even at a little age. Like, he's a peanut, but he can put away a sippy cup. Don't sell him short. He can do it.
No, I know. Yeah, there is the level of independence that they're craving, and you're absolutely right. It's a little bit of a break for us, and it gives them something to do, and they're excited about it.
And kids love to help at that age. Like they really want to have some job and responsibility. And then when they get older, it's like you're forcing it on them, but they really enjoy, they want to be around you. I mean, look, your kids have my kids have not come in once to see me. And so your kids are climbing all over you. My kids are like, please don't bother me.
Who is the luckiest one here? Depends on which side of the screen you ask. So Liz, is there anything else that we didn't talk about, whether on the video or on this call here? What do you think, what can people walk away from this feeling of just wanting to wanting to organize?
Yeah, I think for your, for your team of people that you work with, and if people are feeling overwhelmed with like their kitchens, it kind of just for them to know that there is hope. Some people just get so overwhelmed and they just shut down and they're like, I can't do it. I don't know where to start. It's just, there's so much clutter everywhere. And I work with people in baby steps. Like I said, like you can start with like one drawer, like start with like your junk drawer. And if there's, you know, papers everywhere and there's pens that are dried out from 2008, then we just toss them. But some people just get so stuck that they're just like, I don't even know where to begin. That's where they call me and they're like, can you just help manage, you know, I just need help in my mudroom, or I just need help in my front hall closet. And sometimes that's the motivator, because I'll get texts from people that are like, okay, you motivated me to, you know, work on my closet, or I started to go through my shoes, or I started to empty the spices out of my spice cabinet that, you know, I got when I was married as a wedding gift. You know, you get that little spice carousel, and you know, they're like, these are just fancy spices for display purposes only. Like they never even really use them. So it is possible. And that's why, like, I love my job, because I get to work with people, kind of be their cheerleader and say, yes, you can do it. I come back and I kind of, you know, make them accountable, but it's like doing anything. It's like being a personal trainer. You know, if you know, I need to get in shape, it's like, you probably say, like, just start with a walk. Like you just need to move your body, like just 15, 20 minutes a day. It's the same thing with organizing. Just set a 15-minute timer to go through your dresser drawer or go through your hall closet. So, you know, small steps. And then, you know, I'm here to, you know, help cheerlead you on the way, like you guys.
So where can people find you to use your services? Give us all
Yes.
the
All right. All the fun details are, if you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at mess to bliss. And you can also go to my website, which is www.messtobliss.com. And all my contact info is there. I'm local right outside of the Capital District. So I travel north, south, east, west, wherever people need me. I can come to you. And if I can't come to you, if you live in, like, my cousin lived in Chicago and she wanted help, so I did a virtual organizing. You know, it's not as fun because I can't be there, but I can at least see the space, offer suggestions, and then I send them links to different products, like, you should try this, or maybe use this basket or this bin. And then oftentimes people, you know, appreciate the support. And if you aren't local and you do want someone to be hands-on with you, I am a part of another professional organizing group. So we actually, like, utilize ourselves, like, our resources within the group. So I know a lot of organizers all over the country that I could recommend for you.
Awesome.
I like your cheese stick, Leah.
Spreading the love. Awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. We can't thank you enough. I'm looking forward to having you be one of the first people to look at our new kitchen, pantry, and cabinets.
I'm excited. It's going to be a clean slate for you guys.
Clean slate, but I think it's important, even when you're not starting something new, you know, you can be living in your childhood home and it's still possible, like you said, to just start, you know, fresh. And, you know, it just helps life be more livable.
Yes. You know, my favorite quote is actually from Marie Kondo, who's the Spark Joy woman. And she says, the space that we are in now is for the person that we are becoming, not for the person that we were in the past. So it's very sweet.
Looks like we have Erin joining us.
Yes.
Justin,
We are about to wrap up.
I know. She's like, I have a question. I'm dying to ask.
So Erin, are you there? Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Just in time.
How is everyone?
Good.
Good.
Good. We were actually just wrapping things up with Liz, so perfect timing to come on in.
Yes. I watched the video earlier today, and it's nice to know that an organized person has a junk. That was my favorite. And it actually forced me to go and look at my junk drawer, and I was like, oh yeah, it needs a little TLC again. So yeah, it was just interesting. Yeah, I just found it a very interesting video. I am a collector of all things paper, and that's the biggest downfall. Yeah.
We actually, Erin, we talked about that earlier on this Q&A because, yeah, I mean, and Liz, feel free to jump in here. We can go over things again, but paper is too another, like, sentimental thing. It's we're just afraid to get rid of it.
Yes, it's tricky, and and paper, I do feel like is tough because the volume, at first it's like so thin, it's like one, it's like a very tiny sheet, but then it ends up becoming like just piles, and then you just don't know how to deal with it. And some people, I had a client who lives in an apartment complex, and he gets his mail, from his little mailbox spot. And I said, do not leave that mailbox slot with junk mail. Like, just put it in there's a recycle bin right beside the mailbox. I'm like, just put it in the recycle bin. You do not need the coupons. You never do anything with the clipper coupon magazine. And he knows it. So I said, it shouldn't even come up to your apartment with you. So again, it's all about this habit and, instituting these rituals where you just have to go through the mail. And oftentimes, like on our mailbox, like I don't let junk mail even enter the house. It just ends up right in the bin in our garage. But a lot of people are about, I'll get to it. But then and then you do have to like set a goal. Like, all right, I am going to get to it finally. People also have a hard time getting rid of like holiday cards, like around the Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa season. So I often say a good suggestion for them, which I actually started a couple of years ago, is for what a cute idea is for your contacts for your cell phone. You can take the picture of their Christmas card and make that their contact picture on your phone.
Oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah. I am usually pretty good with getting rid of junk mail. Maybe not every piece before it comes in the house, but pretty close. Or as soon as it comes in, I'll go through it and it goes. But it still amazes me the amount of mail we get. My husband's business, the amount of mail that comes in. My kids drop off mail with, I don't know what to do with it. Can you hold it for me? Stuff like that. It's just, and I think it's all years of accumulating it too. So it's getting my husband to sit down for more than a half a minute to try and go through it and say, this isn't mine. This is yours now. I can't own this paper. It's not mine to throw away. It's yours. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And after 36 years, it still is not working. So I think I need to come up with another solution.
There's actually a lot of websites too where you can opt out of like different like mail merging services. So that's often how it's kind of, again, it is time intensive because you have to like go onto the site, you have to put your contact and your husband's contact information in. But I've had clients that have seen a significant decrease in the mail that accumulates just from using these services.
Right. I think, and as far as Christmas cards go, what I do, if I like the card, I will just use the front and I use it as my to from for Christmas the following year. But you end up getting instead of having a sticker, I just tape that on the package. But you end up having, so many extras that you just, I have bags of them. It's ridiculous. So at some point I just like throw it away and start over. But that doesn't happen either. So,
right. And that's where like my job comes in, because people are like, I won't do it myself, but they need me to stand there and be like, can I throw this away? And I said, yeah, like 9 times. I mean, honestly, probably 95% of the time I'm going to say yes. There's very few times where I'm like, maybe you should hang on to this. Right. But 9 times out of 10, I'm like, yes, like you can let this go. Like same thing. Like Erin, you probably have like your kids' school photos, when you get the package of like 36, wallets, and you're like, I still have 36 wallets from my daughter that was in 3rd grade. Now she's married with 2 kids. So I'll say, you can let them go. Like nobody needs the wallets of your daughter from 3rd grade anymore.
Exactly. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when everybody was like sorting, my kids were home. So we went through photos and I put photos in organizers by person, by cousins, et cetera, et cetera. And then after like 3 days, we fizzled out. And so everything got put back in a bin. But she did put like all the school photos are in one bin. So it's kind of fun. They're there, but at least they're semi-organized in one bin, right? Because I'm done with all that. I'm done with school photos and all of that. So, So it's just
baby steps. I mean, really, anything is better than nothing.
Right.
Any progress towards the goal, because eventually your kids are going to have your stuff. Where I work with clients that have
Right.
you know, their kids are grown and flown, and now the husband and wife are looking to downsize from their 3,500 square foot suburban home.
Right.
And, you know, and now they want to give the bin to the son and daughter, and the son and daughter are like, we don't want this. Like,
Right.
and so then the parents are like, now what do I do? And I'm like, you don't need it. You can,
Right.
you can let
Right.
it go. If your kids
Just
don't
let it
want
go. Right. Just let it go.
Yes, Elsa was right. Elsa was right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I liked your photo book. I think that's a great idea too. Again, my kids are all grown, and I think I
know.
have like this cardboard organizer in our basement closet that is labeled with each child. And that's where, you know, at least part of their artwork ended up. You know, I'm sure my son, our youngest, doesn't have as much as my oldest in the pile, but you know, that's how it goes.
I do tell parents of littles that, because I feel like there's still time to catch them. Like when your kids are in college, you're like, oh, I have all this. And now it does seem like an arduous task. I get that. But if I know that there's a mom that has like you know, like Karen, like a 3-year-old and a 5, I'm like, okay, now you can save it, but only for 1 year. You know, take the pictures from the year, make the photo book, and then recycle the art. But yeah, if you have like 12 years of art.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And like you said, it slows down once they hit junior high. You know, you just don't, if they're not taking major art classes.
This is on my art on my wall. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like right here. Like, this is from like elementary school. We hung that. It's like cute little canvas art, but then everything else is in like a photo book. And
in my den, I do have one piece of artwork from, I think, my oldest daughter, because it's really cute. It's like, I think it's Tom and I with crowns on. So I'm like, oh, I can't throw away king and queen, mom and dad. So, you know, and it's cute. It just is like on my corkboard. So yeah,
it's very sweet.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, slowly but surely. And I feel like when I'm in the mood, I have to just do it. Just pick a drawer or pick something and just do it, because you have to be in the mood. And I could have no sentimental value for others people's things. I can go to someone else's house and help clean out a cupboard in a heartbeat, right?
Yep.
Your own house is very different. Yeah. I don't think I can organize it, but I can tell them what to let go, you know.
No, but you got to start somewhere. It's the same thing. It's the same thing like exercising. Like, everyone's in this winter slump. You know, if you're not a skier or a skater and you're just like, ugh, like I don't want to go outside, it's 18 degrees. Like, you got to start somewhere. You got to move your body. So same thing with organizing. You got to start with a drawer. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because then the closet becomes a little too daunting when it's your first attempt. So anyways.
Or the garage or the basement.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
are big.
Yeah. Big, especially putting away Christmas stuff and stuff. So
take the 10 minutes, put the music on, take the 10 minutes and get back to that photo bin, Erin.
Yeah,
right. Exactly. Got to get back to the photo bin. It's nice because it's now at least tucked away. They're all together and everything, you know, I feel like it's at least a little more controllable because most of them are together, but the amount of photos I have is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, the amount of photos that I have. And half of them, so many of them are still in frames. You know, you rearrange, you put it away, and it never comes out again. So I'm like, it's silly. But
you know, there are companies that will digitize, like, actually, because my mom also has the paper photos from, you know, years and decades ago. They'll, you know, you can do it yourself. It takes time to scan each picture, but there are companies that do it. And also like VHS tapes. We just recently gifted his parents all of their Christmas tapes from when they were kids. And it's on YouTube now. Like, it's so, and now they're actually watching them. So
right.
Yeah, that's really sweet. There's actually a really nice company on Central Ave that does that. Like, I went to them recently and they were super nice. Like, he had like every single adapter and VCR and 8-track player known to man. And I was like, can you please take this? And, you know, again, it's a service that people are, it's kind of like my business. Like, he wants to help you and make it so that it's on one little thumb drive or one little, you know, MP3 on the cloud, which is great. Like, and there's actually like our local library. I know during the pandemic, we converted a lot of slides. Like, we never had them, but like trays of slides. So our library actually has a slide converter to Dropbox. So we made this whole thing for my in-laws. We just scanned every slide in from when, you know, their kids were little and weddings from like the 70s. We scanned them all in from these slide trays and made like a digital link. And they had like hundreds of photos from these slides, and they didn't need the slides. Like we threw out the slides. Like they don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is kind of a weird thought, but you already have them.
I
So
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they take up a lot of space. Those slides are no joke. Those slide carousels. They take
Yeah,
up a
the
lot of
carousel.
space.
A lot of space. Exactly. So, well, thank you ladies for letting
You're
me hop on.
welcome. Thanks,
Say
Erin.
hello. And I'm actually packing up dog food for Tom and I are going away next week. So I'm like literally bagging dog food right now. And all of a sudden I realized the time. I was like, so that's my job tonight. Bag up a week and a half's worth of dog food for each dog. So it's crazy. So
Well, happy packing, Erin. Thank you for joining.
Fran.
And of course, you can always reach out to Liz and continue
Yeah,
the
that would be great.
conversation.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Thank
you. Liz,
you.
thanks again.
a-
We look forward to many more conversations like this in the future.
Yes, I'm always here. I'm not going anywhere. So there's always things to organize.
Awesome. Thanks again. And
All right.
Bye,
everybody,
guys. Have a good
okay,
night.
Mess to Bliss a visit.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.